Okay. So you're thinking about a career working with plants, maybe becoming a horticulture worker, getting those hands dirty, right?
Yeah, it's a popular one. Lots of people dream about working with plants.
For sure. And we're going to dig into it today. We're using this awesome guide from RoleCatcher. It's a whole platform, actually, for career development.
Yeah.
We got tons of resources.
It's impressive, yeah.
But today, we're pulling out the good stuff about becoming a horticulture worker to help you figure out if it's the right path for you.
And there's a lot to unpack. This guide, it really dives into how you need both practical skills and, scientific knowledge, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's one thing to, love plants, right? Everyone loves plants.
Right.
But to actually understand, their needs and how to, encourage healthy growth and all that, that's different.
Totally. And
Yeah.
manage all the challenges that come with it, you know.
For sure. So maybe we should start with, what a typical day even looks like for a horticulture worker.
Sure.
Is it all, beautiful greenhouses and perfectly lined up flowers?
You would think, right.
Right.
But it's not quite like that, according to this guide anyway. They emphasize it's really hands-on, very physical work.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So think planting, watering, pruning, dealing with pests, and often outdoors.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking nurseries, greenhouses, sometimes even fields. Not always the most glamorous.
Okay, yeah. So you're out there, braving the elements, potentially?
Exactly.
Okay. So what about the actual tasks? What are some specific things a horticulture worker might find themselves doing on any given day?
Well, they use this example of pruning,
Pruning, okay.
which, you might think, oh, you just chop off branches, but no.
There's got to be more to it.
Way more to it. Depending on the plant, the species, you have to understand, its growth habits, right? And the proper pruning techniques, the right time of year, all that.
Oh, wow.
It's almost like there's real art to it as much as science. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. I would have never thought about it like that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Pruning.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So it seems like you need a good mix of that practical know-how and then, like you said, the science behind it. And then also being able to adapt to different plants, different situations.
Being adaptable is key, for sure. And this guide, they also go into the tools and equipment you might use, which I thought was interesting. Because it's not just, your basic trowel.
Right. What else?
Right. So you got your hand trowels, pruners, but then you could be working with large machinery too. Tillers, irrigation systems, things like that.
Wow. Okay. So it gets pretty technical.
It can, yeah.
So yeah, it's not just a love for plants. It's understanding, like you were saying, the science behind it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then also being comfortable with using all these different tools and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be willing to get your hands dirty in a lot of different ways.
I'm getting this sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's more than just liking to garden in your backyard, for sure.
That's a good way to put it. That's a great way to put it.
Okay. So we've talked about the hands-on stuff a lot, right? But what about the actual career path itself?
Yeah.
I'm curious. So can you start as a horticulture worker and then work your way up? Or what's...
That's a great question. And yeah, absolutely. This RoleCatcher guide, they actually lay out kind of a step-by-step progression from entry-level horticulture worker to senior horticulture worker.
Okay, so you're not stuck repotting ferns forever.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Gotcha. So tell me a little bit more about this career ladder.
So at the entry level, you're really focused on, like we said, those essential tasks, planting, watering, maintaining the grounds, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But as you gain experience, you might start operating more specialized equipment.
Okay.
Maybe even supervising a small team or taking on more responsibility for things like managing pest control, that sort of thing.
Okay. So it sounds like there's definitely opportunities to kind of specialize as you gain experience and stuff. What if someone wants to focus on I don't know, a specific type of plant or a certain horticultural technique?
You're right. There's definitely room for that. And this guide actually mentions that some horticulture workers specialize in things like greenhouse management, for example, or landscape design, even plant propagation, which is pretty cool.
Plant propagation. Okay. See, now that sounds really interesting. What does that entail? What is that exactly?
So basically, it's the process of creating new plants.
Okay.
So think taking cuttings, grafting. They even talk about tissue culture, which is pretty high tech. It's plant science meets art.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that opens up a whole other level of expertise, it sounds like, within this field. It's not even just about maintaining existing plants. You're talking about creating new life.
Exactly. And it requires, a really deep understanding of plant biology, specific techniques. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. So let's say like you're really excelling in your role, maybe even specializing in something like we're talking about. Yeah. What does the path then to becoming a senior horticulture worker look like? Like, what are you doing at that point?
Yeah. So by then you've got, years of hands-on experience under your belt, specialized knowledge. You're probably managing teams at that point, overseeing projects. This guide emphasizes that senior horticulture workers might even be involved in like developing cultivation plans,
Wow.
training new staff, or even like overseeing entire operations for a company. So, it really shows you how much you can learn and grow within this field, which I think is cool.
Yeah, no, it's quite a journey, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But speaking of like, growth and stuff, I imagine getting your foot in the door in the first place is probably kind of competitive.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what does this RoleCatcher guide say about like nailing that interview?
Well, they really emphasize you've got to be prepared. Like, they really stress that over and over again.
Okay, to actually like back it up.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because it's one thing to, talk about your love for plants,
right.
but they're going to want to know that you have the actual knowledge, the practical skills.
Like, for example, what kind of questions should you be prepared for, you think?
So they're going to like want to know that you're not just, someone who likes to have plants in their house, you know? They want to know that you actually have that base knowledge.
Right.
So like be ready to talk about things like plant propagation methods
Right.
or how to identify and manage like plant diseases, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
What you know about different irrigation systems.
Oh, wow. So yeah, you got to be able to like walk the walk, not just talk about how much you love orchids or whatever.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Be ready to talk about, your experience with different techniques, how you handle challenges, what you know about maintaining plant health in, different situations.
Yeah, it sounds kind of nerve-wracking. But speaking of resources, you had mentioned that like this RoleCatcher guide is kind of just like the tip of the iceberg, right?
Totally. I mean, RoleCatcher, it's a free platform, and they have a ridiculous amount of resources on there. We're talking over 3,000 career guides, like on all sorts of different careers.
Right.
And then like 14,000 online resources on top of that.
Wow.
It's pretty intense.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
But-
so there's a lot to explore. And then on top of that, they also have some really cool AI-powered features. Like they've got this CV and resume builder that basically helps you tailor your materials like to the specific job you're applying for,
Okay.
which is nice. And then they also have this feature where you can actually like practice interview questions and get feedback on your answers.
Wait, so you're saying you can like practice answering?
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience with plant propagation to like a computer.
It's true, yeah. It's like having, a personal interview coach, but like in your pocket.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and then if that wasn't enough, they also have this whole job matching feature, so you can like put in your info, your experience, all that, and it'll actually try to connect you with potential employers.
So it's really like a one-stop shop, basically. Oh. If you're interested in like exploring horticulture, like as a career path.
Pretty much. They've really got you covered.
That's really cool. Okay, so before we like wrap things up, because we're kind of getting close to the end here, one thing I was thinking about is like, technology obviously is like changing everything these days. Does that apply to like the plant world too? Like I always hear about like hydroponics and vertical farming and stuff. Where does that all fit in?
Yeah, you're so right to bring that up. It's easy to think of horticulture, it's very traditional, right? But like you said, technology is like really starting to change things.
Right, and I've heard those terms, but I'm a little fuzzy on like the details.
Yeah, so basically hydroponics is like it allows you to grow plants without soil.
Okay.
So it's kind of a game changer, right?
Yeah.
Especially in places that, maybe don't have a lot of space, or if you're thinking about like urban settings.
Right.
And then vertical farming kind of takes it a step further. It's like, growing upwards in these stacked layers, essentially.
Right.
It's all about like maximizing space and really like precisely controlling the growing environment.
So you're saying I could like have like a whole salad garden in my apartment potentially using these methods.
Exactly. It's becoming really popular, and it's a really, fascinating area of horticulture. And it's got huge potential, because as these technologies evolve and become, more sophisticated, more accessible, it's going to open up even more opportunities for folks who are interested in these like more sustainable and innovative ways to grow food.
That's so cool. Wow. Okay, well, this has been incredibly eye-opening. So for anyone listening, it sounds like, if you love plants, you're not afraid of a little hard work and you're excited to like learn and grow in this field, like very literally, horticulture could be a good fit for you.
I think so, for sure. And like we were talking about with the technology piece of it, the possibilities are kind of endless at this point.
Totally. So on that note, I think that's going to do it for our deep dive into the world of horticulture.
Yes.
Remember, whether you are like super into traditional gardening techniques
Yeah.
or you're more drawn to this like cutting edge plant science stuff that we were just
Yeah.
talking about, it sounds like there's a place for everyone in this field.
There is.
So, yeah. Go there and get your hands dirty, folks.